Is it possible to cancel outstanding debt with one secret letter? Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you exactly what this secret letter is, how you can cancel certain debt with it, and how it's a little known secret that most people don't know. So let's get into it. According to USC 1692G, you can actually cancel certain debt with one secret letter. In fact, here's the letter right here. If you want a free copy of this letter, simply go to getdisputeletters.com or secretcreditletters.com. It's down below. And please don't put the www part because sometimes people have problems getting to my websites. So again, getdisputeletters.com or secretcreditletters.com to be able to get this letter. Now, let's talk about the actual letter itself, and what you should do, who you should send it to, and how this whole process works if you actually want to dispute and get rid of items off of your personal credit reports. So let's talk about the items in question. Anything that has to do with a third-party collection agency, including attorneys, yes, attorneys who are acting as credit collection agencies, you can send this letter to, and it's a magical letter, and this letter basically asks them for proof of the debt. Okay, so here's the part that a lot of people like to argue with me about, and that is this. It's that when you owe a collection agency money, or they claim you owe them money, that people like to argue, and especially in the comments, about how you actually owe. It's like, well, that's really not true, because you don't actually have an original contract with a debt collection agency, including an attorney who could be collecting on behalf of the original debtor or credit furnisher. And so again, before you start arguing with me, let me share with you how most third-party collection agencies end up in the picture. And that is this. Say, for example, you own a bank. Say it's a medium-sized bank called your bank, and your bank is in the process of going through, say, 1,000 people's debt, credit card issuing debt that you had issued to people and they did not pay you. And over the course of 6 months, you tried to collect on that debt and it basically came up against a brick wall. And so therefore now you're going to take those 1,000 credit profiles of those 1,000 closed credit cards that you were unable to collect on, and you're going to go ahead and sell that to a credit collection agency for pennies on the dollar. In many cases, anywhere from 6 to 20 cents on the dollar. You will be selling those 1,000 lot debt to a third-party agency. And so before you argue with me and say, well, Monica, in the fine print in the size 4 font, when we signed up for our credit card agreement, we agreed to the fact that it could be blah, 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 blah. Fill in the blank, whatever you want to say, okay? Herein lies the issue that most people don't understand, and that is when the credit collection agency, this new kid on the block, maybe we'll call it ABC Collection Agency, when they buy this 1,000 credit profiles from your bank and they have an agreement with the credit issuer or the furnisher, with the original creditor, you don't ever get to see that agreement. So you actually don't know what the agreement says, okay? Which means just because you think that this credit collection agency has a valid agreement or you owe them based on the fact that they threw a debt on your credit report does not actually make it legally so, okay? So some debt can be legally traced to the original furnisher, like the original bank, for example, and some debt cannot, okay? In fact, most debt cannot. And so a lot of people, again, like to argue and say, oh, but Monica, I'm just going to assume because they put it on my credit report that I must owe it. Why assume that? Why assume that? It's almost as if we had so say, for example, I lent you money. Say I lent you $1,000 and we had an agreement and we basically signed a contract together. You decided to not pay me the $1,000. I tried to collect and I was unsuccessful. And so therefore I decided to tell my neighbor down the street, oh, hey, I'm unable to collect from this jerk. Here, you can go ahead and collect on it, and anything that you get, great. But can you pay me for the debt? And then he pays me $100 and he says, okay, I'll pay you $100. And if I can threaten the guy and maybe take him in a back alley somewhere and try to get some money out of it, if I can at least get $200, I'll be ahead. I'll make 100% on my investment of $100. However, herein lies the problem. I may or may not have a contract with my neighbor down the street who's going to threaten you with either a lawsuit or other elements to be able to collect the money. However, that does not mean that you suddenly have an agreement with the neighbor for this debt. It just does not. And so logically, it doesn't play out. Legally, it doesn't play out. And a lot of people don't understand what their rights are. And let me just kind of back up really briefly on how and why large conglomerate banks and institutions and even the government wants to constantly keep you deprived when it comes to your own education, especially financial education. The more educated you are on the law that's already there on the books. In fact, the law is even in this letter. Yes, there's laws on the books that protects you as a consumer, but they're too busy trying to instill fear in you to whereas you don't even want to take a look at the law and, even try to comprehend the law. And even if you did look at the law in most cases, you probably don't know what it says or how it relates to you. And so you just go through life assuming that all the cards are stacked against you, when in reality, all you need to do is open your eyeballs and understand that the cards are actually stacked in your favor to some degree. Not 100%, but you got to take it where you can take it. You know what I mean? Like if you have a little bit of leeway in the law that you can use to help benefit yourself and help get you out of this situation, then why not? Now, before I move forward, I just want to head it off at the pass with a few people that are going to type in the comments, "Well, just pay your bills, deadbeat," because there's always somebody that, has nothing but apparently endless amounts of time to troll credit videos just to be able to berate the people that are in financial trouble. And so I'm not here to judge you, okay? I think all of you should know that by now, especially those of you that have been following me for a while. You know that I've gone through my own credit calamities. I do not judge other people because I ended up in a major, massive situation that I could not get out of, which is why I ended up having to file for bankruptcy more than 20 years ago. And so I don't ever judge anybody for their situation because things do happen. So before you, not you, but somebody who's a troll decides that they want to start typing, "Go pay your bills, deadbeat," or whatever they want to say, please note that accidents happen. Sometimes you end up in a car accident and you can't pay your bills because you're in the hospital, or you rack up a bunch of medical bills that you can't pay for. Maybe, God forbid, you got cancer, and you had a bunch of bills, or maybe your spouse left you and then you were left with a bunch of bills to take care of, or maybe you lost your job unintentionally. You just lost your job. Maybe your supervisor decided to cut back on staff and just decided to terminate you, and then you thought you were going to get a new job and you didn't. So again, don't let people berate you because of the situation you're in. The only time I get pissed off at people is when they do try to work the credit system knowing that they're doing it in advance. Does that make sense? Like trying to take out a loan for, say, $10,000, knowing with the intent and on purpose taking out that money knowing they're not going to pay it back. That's when I get mad at people, because that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to teach you how to do all the tricks, the backdoor methods to get out of this debt, for you to use this magic, if you will, to screw over the system. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm trying to do is share with you what I know, so that in that way, if you do end up in a sticky situation that you absolutely did not intend to end up in, and you're just trying to figure out a way to get out, then that's why I'm sharing my videos, all of my videos with you. Okay, so I just want to be clear about that. All right. So back to the letter. Let's go to this letter and talk about why it can essentially cancel your debt. Because this letter actually cites two very, very important federal laws that are in your favor as the consumer, as the credit consumer, demanding that these creditors, so basically the creditor, it's not going to work with original creditors. Like, for example, it's not going to work with the original bank because they're going to have all your documentation. So if you did, for example, get into a situation where you could not pay a loan, you could not pay a credit card or whatever, then you're going to have to wait until the situation ends up in the hands of a credit collection agency or a law firm that's working on behalf of the original credit furnisher, because this will not cancel any debt from the original credit furnisher, but it will cancel a debt from a collection agency. Now, let me explain the law to you, because sometimes people get this all mixed up. They're like, "I don't understand, Monica. I have the same debt on my credit report twice." Well, that's illegal, okay? So maybe the original credit furnisher has the debt on your credit report, and maybe also a credit collection agency at the same time has the same original debt on your credit report. That is illegal. Only one of them can exist on your credit report at any given time. which means you dispute both of them. But usually what ends up happening is that when a bank sells the debt to a credit collection agency or a law firm, what they end up doing is that they pull themselves off your credit report. At least legally, that's what they're supposed to do. And then they throw it into the hands of the credit collection agency or law firm, and then they put their information on your credit report. That's the way that it's supposed to work out, okay? And so when that happens, then you may as well, thank your lucky stars, because now you have this secret letter that could essentially cancel that debt, because very likely they're not going to be able to prove what we call chain of title. Okay. In fact, if any time you are sued by a credit collection agency, you simply file a motion. You don't answer the lawsuit. What you do is you immediately file a motion to dismiss for lack of standing, because due to the fact that they don't have chain of title. Chain of title means that they have to show proof of how they ended up with the debt, since you don't have a legal contract with them. That is the law, folks. That is the law. Okay. So before anybody wants to throw any comments down about that can't work that way. Okay. It's the law. It's the law. It's the law. It's the law. I don't know how many more times I got to tell you. It is the law. Okay. So they have to show proof through what we call a chain of title to show how it ended up from the original creditor to them. How did it transfer? It's almost like transferring a title of an automobile, okay? How did it go from the original owner to the new owner? We need to see the paperwork, okay? 99% of the time, they don't have the paperwork. So then you might ask, well, Monica, why do these people even bother filing lawsuits to begin with? Well, the answer is because most people are too stupid to show up to court. And that is how they win. 70% of the time, people do not show up to court because they're too afraid to face their demons. You should always show up to court because, again, don't show up to court until you actually file your motion to dismiss for lack of standing. And then when you show up to court, when they actually, when the court actually reviews the motion and decides to, rule on the motion, you'll be there, and the opposing party, the plaintiff, has to show proof. The plaintiff always has the burden of proof on their shoulders. So whenever they assert that you owe something, or whenever they're suing you, the burden of proof is on their shoulders that you owe it, which means they better show up with some paperwork. Now, here's the other thing that a lot of people don't know, is that collection agencies don't get the paperwork, the original contracts, from the creditor. And even if they did, listen up, folks, even if the collection agency somehow miraculously got this massive stack of original contracts and agreements from the original credit furnisher, guess what? Their name isn't on it. So it's like, okay, that's great. You just showed proof that I had an account with Capital One and I agreed to this credit card with Capital One. Yay, good for you. But where's your name on this contract? Well, the name is not anywhere because you're not on anywhere, which means I don't owe you the money because I don't have a contract or an agreement with you. See where I'm going with this? A lot of people make these false assumptions that they assume because somebody put something on their credit report, therefore they must owe it. And the answer is you don't necessarily owe it. You have to get proof, and this is the letter that will do it. So for those of you that are having problems with credit collection agencies calling you, texting you, sending you emails, sending you physical mail, and you want to get rid of them, but at the same time you want to cancel your debt out, here is your secret letter. So again, for those of you that are getting harassed by creditors, I've had a lot of people who go into my school group, which, by the way, if you want to communicate with me directly, don't call my office, don't email me directly because you will not get a response. However, if you want to communicate with me by way of DM directly, yes, with me, not a bot, not my assistant, with me, go to school.com/Monica Main. Once I admit you in, yes, I look at every single one of the people that try to get in because I have a lot of bots and, weirdos try to get in. But I will take a look and make sure that you're legit. And then once I admit you in, you can DM me, okay? You can DM me and I can answer your questions. Now, I do not provide consulting. So for those of you that keep calling my office, wanting one-on-one free consulting, I don't provide any credit consulting. I do that for legal reasons. I just don't do any kind of one-on-one consulting with anybody. So don't ask about one-on-one consulting. But what I've had lately is a lot of people ask me, they're like, Monica, I have a credit collection agency that keeps sending me this letter. What do I do? Well, again, I can't give you one-on-one consulting about it, but what I can do is tell you to send this letter, okay? Because this letter will not only get them off your back legally, but it'll also, in many cases, cancel the debt out altogether as if it never existed, all right? Now, say, for example, the letter doesn't work. Well, in the very least, it will get them off your back. They will no longer be able to communicate with you by law unless they want to get sued, okay? So they have to cease and desist all communication. That does not mean that they won't sue you, folks. Just because you cancel the debt does not mean that they won't sue you. Just because you have it removed off your credit report does not mean that they will not sue you, okay? Welcome to the United States of America, where anybody can sue anybody for anything, okay? So just because you had it canceled off or deleted off your credit does not mean that they will not come sue you. If they do, again, what did I say before? I said this. I said, the very first motion you file before you file an answer or anything else, like within 24 hours after you receive that service from the process server that you have served a lawsuit, you need to file a motion to dismiss for lack of standing, okay? That's the main one that you want to focus in on, due to a lack of chain of title or showing or proving that they have a chain of title on the debt. Because again, you are essentially now dealing with this rando third party that came out of the woodwork from nowhere. They have no proof. Now, for those of you that like to argue again, you're probably going to say, well, there is a contract. There's a contract between the original bank and this third party. Okay, that's fine. Where's the contract then? Okay? By law, upon request, they do have to provide this chain of title when you are going to court and after you file your motion to dismiss for lack of standing. So when you guys both come into court and the judge is standing there, the judge is going to look at the plaintiff and go, according to this motion, you don't have a lack of standing, you don't have a chain of title. So let's talk about that chain of title. Where's your proof that you are a party in this lawsuit and that they owe you any money? Again, burden of proof on the plaintiff. Most of the time they don't have it, okay? Now, here is something very important. When you send this letter, anytime you are communicating with a credit collection agency or creditor directly, never, ever, 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 ever put your legal signature on these letters, ever, okay? You could see I put a sloppy ass M on there, which doesn't really even look like an M. It doesn't look like anything. But I am a paranoid individual, and I've seen some very unscrupulous activity go on, especially with these seedy, barely legal credit collection agencies, whereas they will lift your signature off of here and put it on a contract to show proof that you owe the debt. Yes, it's debt illegal, does not mean that they don't do it. So do not put your legal signature here. Also, I get tons of people asking me, do I send them a copy of my driver's license and 2 utility bills? Never, okay? You never send a creditor or collection agency any of that stuff. That's only for the credit reporting bureaus like Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. When you send any communication to any of one of those credit reporting bureaus, you then have to send them a proof of your residency, so then that way they can start working on your credit profile. That includes a copy of your driver's license with your current address and 2 utility bills showing where you live. If somebody else pays your bills, then shows 2 other types of bills, maybe a credit card bill, a bank statement, insurance statement, whatever, voter registration card, whatever has your address on it. But again, that's only for the credit reporting bureaus. Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, those are the only entities you send that additional information, including your ID to. Whenever it comes to any of the credit furnishers or a collection agency especially, you do not send them any of your ID information or any other personal information, and you damn well make sure that this is not your legal signature, okay? Just a scribble, that's it, all right? Because I don't trust any of those people. None of them, and I never will, all right? I've seen some ridiculous stuff that these people have tried to do to get people to pay up. So what do you do if you're in a situation where you have a bunch of collection agencies on your credit report and you just want them off? Well, first things first, I like to do the envelope, the secret, I guess you could say, empty envelope strategy. Now, some of you don't like that strategy. That's fine. You don't have to use it. But what I do like, though, is whenever you're communicating with the credit collection agencies, you want to send it by way of certified mail. So when you send this letter, regardless of whether or not it's an empty envelope, meaning that you basically put no letter in there, you just send an envelope off, and then you have the card, the green card, they'll stamp it with the date, and then they'll sign it or just stamp a name on there. You'll get the certified letter back in the mail from the U.S. Postal Service. Sometimes you get them back, sometimes you don't. This is why you should also have trackable mail, so you have trackable and certified on the envelope. And then that way, in the event that the U.S. Postal Service loses your green card, at least you have the trackable method that they received the information, they received the envelope in the mail. Now again, it could have nothing in the envelope, it can have this letter in the envelope, does not matter. So say, for example, you did send an empty envelope. Make sure that when you send the certified card, on the back of the card, it just has an address to mail it back to. Ideally, post office box, not even your home address. So you just have P.O. Box, blah, blah, blah on there. And then that way, when the U.S. Postal Service worker gets the signature from the people that signed for your envelope, they will not be able to see the back. Now, some people, this is unbelievable. Please note, I want to make this clear. Please note that people that work for credit collection agencies, number one, most of them are just the bottom of the barrel people that are just trying to make a living, okay? Some of them are assistants and whatnot. So some people are like, oh, they're probably taking pictures of the front and back of the card. Okay, let me ask you a question. If you worked for a credit collection agency and you had to go into the post office once a week and sign 500 of those cards and stamp 500 of those cards, are you going to be standing there with your iPhone? Do you care about your job that much that you're going to be standing there with an iPhone taking a picture of the front and back of every single one of those cards? Yes or no? And I can guarantee you the answer is, drum roll, no. Okay? So for those of you that have these phantom theories, these wild Walter Mitty theories on how the world works, that's one of the ways that the world does not work. Okay? So even if they were standing there meticulously taking pictures of the 500 cards that they just had to sign that U.S. Postal Service is taking back so that they can mail back to you, what's it going to have on there? Ready? A post office box with no name on the back of the card where the U.S. Postal Service is going to mail that back. And by the way, I can guarantee you that the reason some of you are not getting these cards back is because you didn't even put a legitimate address or any address on the back of the card. So you have to fill out the front of that green card and the back of the green card. And on the back where they're going to be sending you the card back, you need to have just a P.O. box. You don't even have to have your name. Now also, if you're going to be doing the empty envelope, make sure that you have to have some address in the upper left-hand corner to be able to mail it out. Otherwise, the U.S. Postal Service will not accept your letter. But again, it does not even have to be your legitimate address at that point because it's just going to be an envelope that they're going to receive. And it doesn't even, if it's empty, it's empty. And then they're going to be like, oh, what's this bogus P.O. box? And it's just an empty envelope. Okay. And then you got the card back in the mail showing proof that they received the letter. Now, what are you going to be doing with that card? You're going to be waiting 30 calendar days from the day after they received and stamped that date on there. So say, for example, it's the first of the month, the time will start ticking on the second of the month, and you'll wait until the 31st or the first of the following month. And then on that date, you'll be like, okay, I'm now going to send these cards, a copy of these cards, just the front part where they signed and dated. And this letter, okay, you're going to send a copy of this letter with the actual date of the first of the prior month. And of course, a copy when they actually received it. And you're going to send a letter to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You're going to send a trackable mail. And yes, to them, you will send them a copy of your driver's license, a copy of your 2 utility bills or equivalent to show proof of your residence. And you will send this letter with a copy of the green card, and you'll say, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, I don't understand. These people have this entry on my credit report. You can even have a copy of that little entry highlighted on your credit report. And you say, I tried to inquire about this debt, and this has been more than 30 days, and these people have not responded to me. And I don't know. I mean, according to the law, you have to take this off. You have to take this off my credit because none of this debt is being validated. Okay? That's what you do after the 30 calendar days. Now, if you're one of these, goody two-shoes that has to put something in the envelope, you don't feel comfortable sending something in the envelope, that's fine. Send this. But I can guarantee you that the credit collection agency, they're not going to have the original contract because they can't even get it by the original agreement that they have with the credit issuer or the credit furnisher. They're not going to have that agreement because part of their agreement is that they don't get the agreement of yours, right? That's it. That is part of their agreement. And by the way, if you're a credit collection agency and you own a credit collection agency, Are you really going to want all those credit agreements stuffing up, your office and boxes, or, online, sucking away all of the available space you have in your computers by having everybody's credit agreement anyway? And even if you do have their credit agreement, you as the credit collection agency are not on that agreement. Yes, that agreement is originally with the bank or the lender or Capital One or whoever. That's who the original debt is with. So you having somebody else's contract with somebody else, some other entity, does not automatically mean you're part of the equation. That's just not how these things work. So again, if you want to send this letter, you can, but I can guarantee you that this is the layer of complication you'll be adding to this. And that is this. If you're sending this letter to them without doing the empty envelope strategy, where you're sending no letter to them, then you're going to be letting them know in advance that you're about to dispute this with the three reporting bureaus, three major credit reporting bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So they have time to now find your contract with the original credit furnisher if they have it, okay? So if you plan on sending the letter and not doing the empty envelope technique like I recommend, then I recommend you dispute it with Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion first. You do that part first. So basically send a physical letter dispute to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion saying this collection agency is on my credit report. This information is inaccurate. Take it off as per federal law. Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion have 30 days to complete their investigation. Once their investigation is complete, after 30 calendar days, they will let you know whether it updates or whatever. If it stays on there, then you can send this letter to the credit collection agencies, okay? Now, if they're already harassing you and threatening to sue you, you want to send this right away. All right, you want to send this right away because they're on top of it. You don't have time for the dispute process. You need to get them off your back now. So if they're already harassing you, sending you letters, texts, whatever, and you want it to stop, plus you want to cancel the debt out, then send this right away. But if this is a credit collection agency that's just idly sitting on your credit report, you want to get rid of it, dispute it with the credit reporting bureaus first, wait 30 calendar days, and then send this to them if it does not fall off. If it falls off your credit, then you don't need to worry about this part at all, okay? However, I recommend you do the empty envelope strategy, whereas you send the empty envelope with the certified card. The certified card comes back, wait 30 calendar days, then send a copy of this letter with the copy of the certified card to Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. Say they never got back to me, they never sent me any kind of legal, upon this request of my letter, they never sent me any of the legal documentation I needed to prove that this is my debt. And the reason we want to cut them out altogether is because I can guarantee you right now what they're going to give you. That is this. They're going to give you a statement, an invoice. They're going to give you some other crappy ass, legit, type of documentation that does not prove that you owe the account. I mean, I can go to QuickBooks right now at my desk and I can drum up an invoice for you and say that you owe me thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars. It doesn't even matter. I can put whatever amount of zeros I want. That is not a legitimate piece of paper. It's not a legitimate contract or agreement, but that is what these collection agencies will do 99% of the time. So, knowing that this is all they're going to send you and that is not a legal document that proves that you owe the debt, why waste your time to begin with? And that's why I like doing the empty envelope technique. So let's recap. If you're having issues right now with a creditor or collection agency harassing you and you just want them to get off your back, plus you want to cancel the debt, then send this to them right away by way of certified mail and trackable mail, U.S. Postal Service. Do not put your legal signature here and do not include any other documentation, including a driver's license or bills or anything. None of that stuff will be included with this letter. Just send them the letter and you wait, okay? Next, you wait 30 days and then you can send a copy of this letter with the certified card directly to the credit reporting bureaus stating that, they never gave you proof of the debt. Even if they sent you a statement, which a lot of them will do, that's not considered legitimate. So don't explain that you received something. This is the mistake that most people make. They're like, Experian, they sent me something, but it wasn't legitimate or legal. Well, all Experian hears from you is they sent me something, and then they close the case, and then they just update the file, and then it just stays on your file like Gorilla Glue, and that's not what you want. So you basically just tell Experian, they did not abide by federal law and send me any kind of agreement or paperwork that proves that this debt is mine, that I have a debt with ABC Collection Agency, or the name of the company, right? Which they didn't, because an invoice is not proof. A statement is not proof. That is not a legal contract. So you guys need to understand how to work the system if you're going to be successful doing this, okay? So again, if they're on your ass now and they are basically harassing you, calling you, then you want to send this to the credit collection agencies right away. Again, send it certified and trackable mail. Do not use your legal signature. Do not send them a copy of your driver's license or any other identification. Do not send them any utility bills or any confirmation of where you live. Even better, if you can include a P.O. box or somewhere that you don't actually live, that's even better. But if you don't, then they've already sent it to your personal address, then I guess just use that. I don't like them to have more information about me than needed, okay? And then wait 30 days and then send a copy of this to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, along with a copy of your certified card, and dispute it with them is what you do. Option B is to use the empty envelope strategy. Send every single one of your closed accounts. You want them to be closed, not open revolving, but closed accounts. They can be charge-offs, they can be credit collection agencies, whatever, as long as they're closed. You send an empty envelope to each one of those. Make sure you scribble some P.O. box that's not yours in the upper left-hand corner of the envelope, not the back of the card, the envelope only. Mail them off certified and trackable. Make sure on the back of the certified envelope and the certified card you have a P.O. box, not your name, just a P.O. box. If you have to borrow somebody's P.O. box, great. Just put a P.O. box on the back. And nobody's taking pictures of the front and back of these cards, folks. They, like I said, they get hundreds per week. They have some poor schleprock who's got to go to the post office to do all of this work for probably minimum wage, and he or she has zero interest in knowing who sent the envelope because they don't give a damn, okay? So make sure that you put the address on the back, because I have a feeling that most of you that are not getting these green cards back are not putting the addresses on the back, which is why you're not going to get them back, or maybe it's not legible, or whatever the case may be. And then you wait 30 calendar days, and then once the 30 calendar days goes by, guess what? You send a copy of that card along with a copy of this letter showing that you sent this letter. Even if it's an empty envelope, you still say, hey, I sent this letter. I don't know, they didn't send me any proof. Here's the card. By law, they have to send me some kind of proof that this is my account. They haven't sent me anything. I don't know what's going on. And by law, they know damn well they have to take it off. Now, what if the credit reporting bureaus don't take it off after the 30-day time frame and they just simply update it again and they leave it on there? Then you need to do the next step, which is the MOVE letter, MOV, which stands for Method of Verification. The Method of Verification letter goes out, which is another 30-day process. You send that by way of certified and trackable mail, because it's the precursor for you wanting to send them a legal threat letter, okay? A legal lawsuit letter. So the MOVE letter is a method of verification that demands to know how they perform their investigation. And by law, you have the right to know how they perform their investigation. And they have to show proof that they performed the investigation over the 30 calendar days. And they have to show proof one way or the other. And that's usually when you start to notice that things will fall off your credit, because you are not worth it to them. Okay, they have bigger fish to fry and you're not it. So many times you'll find that with the method of verification letter, which is again a 30-day process on top of everything else you're doing right now, which may bring us into 90 days at this point, still it's worth it to be very painstaking and persistent in this process. Because if you're not, if you think this is a one and done deal, I have so many people who are like, I sent one letter, Monica, and everything didn't magically fall off my credit. Well, hello? Okay, it took you years to screw up your credit. You think a one and done letter is going to magically just part the seas for you and make your credit go into an 800 FICO score? That's not how it works. It's a painstaking process, but guess what? It's worth it. It works every time if you work the system. But if you give up after one letter, you're not going to make it. You're not going to improve your credit, okay? So this is the game you got to play if you want to increase your FICO. And of course, as you all know, you have to have good credit to rent an apartment, to buy a house, to get a decent insurance policy. Yes, you need good credit to get a good insurance premium on any insurance product that you want. You need to be able to have decent credit if you want to get a good job. They want to make sure that you're credit solvent and that you're not going to be, embezzling from their company on the side because you're in financial despair. So you need good credit for everything. So for those of you that want to put the comments about how you should pay cash for everything, again, the 1940s are long over. Those days are long over, and we live in a very credit-dependent, credit-reliant society. So you either play the game or go live in a tent in the middle of a field somewhere, and you won't be able to watch YouTube anymore or do anything online because you'll be off the grid. But, if you want to do it that way, then by all means do it that way. But if you want to be participating in our current society the way it's set up, I did not make the rules. I'm just simply telling you how to navigate the rules better because the cards are stacked against you. Yes, there are federal laws that help you out, but for the most part, these cards are still stacked against you as the little guy and the little gal in this equation. And I'm just trying to give you tools and strategies to help you better navigate yourself, so that way you can massively increase your FICO score. And I've seen people massively increase their FICO scores by hundreds of points over the course of, say, 90 days or even 6 months. So in 6 months from now, you're still going to be 6 months older. You might as well have 200 points added to that FICO score rather than 0, okay? It's your choice. You could either work the system, which always works if you work it, or not. It's completely up to you. So I hope that this content was helpful. If so, give me a nice thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. Also go to my school group, school.com/Monica Main. You can get a copy of my free Credit Millionaire book as a free download, which will share with you exactly how to fix your personal credit, but also, most importantly, start to build business credit so you can access hundreds of thousands of dollars in unsecured credit to build wealth for yourself, because that's essentially how the wealthy people do it. They use OPM or other people's money to invest in real estate, to invest in the stock market, to be able to buy businesses or start businesses. And so you might as well use those same loopholes for yourself as well. So I can't wait to bring you more, especially when it comes to this credit stuff. This is Monica Main signing off, and I will see you in the next video.